So, Travis works at a nursing home for the elderly. He receives the news that he's been let go due to budget cuts. The following day, he joins a friend at an anti-war demonstration. The buddy reminds him of all the guinea pig gigs he took in college just to scrape together some cash. Suddenly, the protest gets taken over by chaos. A soldier jumps in to strike the demonstrators. He knocks down an attractive woman that Travis had been checking out. Travis steps in, yanking the soldier backward. He raises his fist as if to punch, but doesn't actually land a hit. The authorities drag the soldier away, and Travis checks if she's okay. He asks her out for a drink. Once the protest wraps up, at the bar, they swap stories about their activism history. Before she admits this is her final protest, since she is moving to India and suggests Travis do the same. He can't possibly do that without money, but he asks to see her again before she leaves. Later on, he schemes through the classifieds and spots an ad looking for people to take part in a behavioral experiment offering $1,000 per day for 2 weeks. He figures it does not hurt to try. The next day, he attends the initial meeting where he completes the paperwork and chats with 2 other volunteers, Michael and Benj. The person in charge is Dr. Archer Lita. He makes them fill out a form before explaining what the study is about. They are testing what it's like to live in a state penitentiary. The single requirement is that nobody has served a long sentence. The participants will be safe at all times, but they need to remember that some of the guinea pigs will lose their civil rights. After that, the doctor runs some assessments to determine who the 26 selected individuals will be, including a recorded interview with morally charged questions. Travis responds he has no history of incarceration or violence, and his interest in religion is a plain no. He bases his ethical decisions on whatever he feels. Michael talks about his time as a Boy Scout and on the marching team, in addition to multiple church groups, because he is devout. Another volunteer called Chase says he has lived his life revolving around 3 things: women, weed, and smiles. Once the interview wraps up, the volunteers are taken to a sealed room, where a video is played showcasing contrasting images, including cute stuff like babies and animals, plus more brutal clips from the news. Sometime later, Travis visits her to spend one last moment together. As she kisses the soft tips of his fingers, she says she knows he would not have hit that furious soldier at the protest. They also talk about India and how Travis will find her once the experiment ends. He gets selected for the final group, and on the big day, a bus picks up all the chosen volunteers, which includes the new buddies Travis made during the meeting. Inside the prison vehicle, everyone reflects on their dear ones and the answers they gave about them during the experiment. Benj remembers a barista from his favorite coffee spot and answered in the interview that women are everything on God's green earth. Chase thinks about a random hookup he was not exactly gentle with. Michael thinks about his extremely controlling mom. And Travis remembers the moment he kissed and gave away his bracelet. Upon arriving at the prison, the bus driver won't let them take their luggage, which leaves Benj worried. On the first day, Dr. Archer Lita gives a speech and a final chance to back out. He states that violence is not allowed, and if they see any through the cameras, the experiment will be shut down. Michael, Chase, Boach, Hellwag, and 2 other volunteers are chosen as the 6 guards, while the remaining 20 will become prisoners. The guards must not let anything from the outside world enter or leave the cell block, and the prisoners must obey 5 rules at all times. They must have 3 meals a day, and all food must be finished. They get 30 minutes of recreation each day. They can only enter areas marked for prisoners. They may speak only when spoken to, and they cannot touch the guards under any circumstance. Those who break the rules must face proportional punishment. If any person leaves, nobody gets paid. If a prisoner breaks the rules, the guards have 30 minutes to choose disciplinary action. If they fail to do so, a red light will turn on, the experiment comes to an end, and no one receives any money. After the doctor leaves, the guards prepare the prisoners just like a real prison, spraying everyone down with a hose. Boach shows regret for having to put them through this, but Chase is already having a blast, cursing them out and humiliating a volunteer called Oscar. Afterward, the prisoners are lined up while the guards read out the rules. From this point forward, the inmates will only be addressed by their numbers. Travis ends up in a cell with Benj, who is a comic book artist, and with Nix, a guy who insists on being called by his number. A flashback from the interview reveals why some of the volunteers joined the experiment. Nix and another guy simply mention the money. Michael is doing it for his mother, because she broke her hip and he needs to cover the rent. Chase wants to impress women with the cash. Travis answers that he wants to escape. During recreation time, the prisoners are playing basketball. One of them accidentally hits Boach in the face with the ball. The guards go check on his injury. And while Boach insists everything is fine since it was an accident, Chase and Helwag argue this broke. Rule number 5. Not wanting to risk the light turning on and losing their money. Everyone agrees to punish the prisoners in a way that matches something supposedly accidental. So they ask the man who threw the ball to do 10 push-ups. He refuses because it was an accident. In response, Chase makes everyone do the push-ups. Nix immediately starts doing them, leaving the others no choice but to follow his lead. Michael is impressed and starts to enjoy the power, especially when the 30 minutes go by and the light stays off, meaning they did the right thing. On the second day, the prisoners are served a classic horrible prison slop. Benj finishes everything before getting up, but the rest refuse to eat the weird bean goo. So Helwag and Chase remind them this would break a rule. Travis responds by dropping his food onto Helwag's hands. So the guards try to punish them with push-ups again, but the prisoners ignore them, and everybody starts tossing their food and trays at Helwag. Afterward, the guards discuss what happened. Chase is frustrated, because the only reason the prisoners did that is that they know the guards cannot hit them. Michael suddenly recalls the time he got accepted into a fraternity, which had similar rules, and concludes that to break the prisoners' will, they need to humiliate them. As punishment, they decide to enter each cell and empty fire extinguishers all over the prisoners. Michael also drags Travis outside and handcuffs him to the cell door, so he has to sleep on the floor for starting the food riot. After that, when he goes to the bathroom to clean up, he discovers his body kind of enjoyed having power. In the middle of the night, Benj asks for help. He is having a heat flash because his blood sugar is low, but the guards simply tell him to go back to bed. On the third day, Michael reminds everyone to follow the rules, but gets angry when he sees Benj hasn't gotten out of bed because he is not feeling well. The guards check the form he filled out, discovering he is diabetic but controls it through diet. He had brought some chocolate bars with him, but they did not let him keep his bag when they arrived. The guards still force him out of bed. Travis tries to defend his friend, making Michael increasingly angry. When nothing he says can make Benj obey, rage makes him pull out his police baton. But Travis reminds him that violence would make them lose the money. The other guards step in to stop Michael from doing something stupid and send every prisoner back to their cells. Nix and Travis have a brief conversation about the intentions behind the experiment. Travis thinks they are throwing animals in a cage to see who becomes the lion and who survives. Nix does not agree because he believes humans are at the highest level of the evolutionary tree and confesses he knows Nix lied on his application and that he has been in prison before, a conclusion he reached when he noticed his Aryan tattoo. Nix makes him promise not to tell anyone, and reminds him he should behave so he does not get into trouble, because those guys act exactly like real guards. That is why he always follows the rules without hesitation. He just wants his money. Back in the office, the guards are also chatting. Chase thinks the prisoners will revolt at any moment, and while Boach disagrees, because it would cost them their pay, Michael argues they should do something to scare them into submission. The guards pull Travis out of his cell and tie him to a chair to shave his head, while Michael delivers a speech about weakening the leader. Then he asks if there will be respect from now on, but Travis just insults him. Furious, Michael kicks the chair to make him fall and starts to urinate on him, an action some guards, like Boach, disagree with, but others decide to join in. Since the light does not turn on, they assume their punishment was approved. However, Boach is upset and tells his colleagues that if something like that happens again, he will leave the experiment, not caring if it costs everyone their pay. After Travis returns to his cell, he observes Nix from afar and remembers the interview again, when they asked what he would do if a loved one was seriously hurt, and the law could not punish the guilty. He answered that he did not think in terms of justice, because justice was what started wars based on the eye for an eye philosophy. On the fourth day, Travis hides some bread in his pockets during lunch, and later takes it to Benj, who is still sick in bed. He admits he needs insulin and lied on his application to be accepted, figuring he could control it through diet and tough it out. Travis wants to tell the guards or the scientists, but Benj refuses, saying he needs to do this to stop feeling like a failure. Later that night, Chase tries to satisfy himself with his hand, but the others can hear him and ask him not to do it in the room. Meanwhile, Boach passes by the cells to check on Benj, because he is still unwell. Travis says he will pay part of his own money if Boach gets Benj's insulin, and Boach refuses at first, but in the end, he gives in for free, going out to look for the bags they arrived with. Meanwhile, Chase also left the room to take Oscar out of his cell. He leads him to an abandoned room with no cameras. He tries to force Oscar to get on his knees and use his mouth, but before they can go very far, Michael shows up and demands an explanation. Chase lies and says Oscar had some info about Travis that he did not want to share in front of everyone. But the conversation gets interrupted again, this time by Helwag. He brings all the guards back to the office to show what he found on the cameras. It is Boach going through the bags. They go after him, and after finding the insulin in his pocket, Michael makes him confess that Travis asked for it, promising forgiveness. After that, he takes the insulin to Benj, but also makes Helwag take Travis to the bathroom. While shaving his own head, Michael says he is not a monster. But Travis broke the rules, and if the experiment was not stopped, it is because the scientists approve of his actions, and Benj was always safe. Travis thinks Michael should use his prize money to check himself into a psychiatric facility, and a furious Michael decides the next punishment. Helwag shoves Travis's head into the toilet until he says out loud that he is only a prisoner. At first, he keeps insulting them, but over time, he breaks and does what he is told. Once sent back to his cell, he breaks down and cries. Later in the middle of the night, the guards pull Boach out of bed and beat him as punishment in that abandoned room with no cameras. On the fifth day, Benj is feeling better and joins the others in the daily routine. But Michael has another surprise for them. Boach will become a prisoner for breaking the rules, and fed up with Michael's demeaning speech, Travis takes off his uniform shirt, and while his fellow prisoners follow his example, he climbs onto a cell door to ask the camera to open the gates. Michael pulls him down and presses him against the floor with his baton on Travis's neck. Then Benj tries to help, hitting Michael on the back of the head. He responds by hitting him hard with his baton, leaving Benj writhing and bleeding on the floor. As punishment, Michael orders the guards to split up the prisoners and isolate them so they cannot communicate. Travis gets the worst of it when they lock him inside an old boiler pipe for the night. And even inside that pipe there is a camera. One of the guards is not happy with this mess and wants to leave, calling Michael crazy. But once again, he reminds them that no red light means they are behaving correctly. So nobody leaves. On the sixth day, Chase visits Oscar in the abandoned room to beat him and finish what they started the other day. Meanwhile, Travis is starting to go crazy. But he gets an idea when he remembers he still has his bracelet. He pulls it out and uses it to open the pipe door. Hearing Oscar's screams for help, he gets out. He runs to save him, hitting Chase from behind and grabbing him while Oscar knocks him unconscious with his own handcuffs. Then they use Chase's keys to free all the prisoners. Nix is finally tired of being a good boy, but it is too late for Benj. He died from his injuries. The prisoners are furious and ready to fight. As they start attacking the office door to break it down, Michael grabs a knife to defend himself. But the other guards think he is crazy, since they are clearly outnumbered. They flee, and Michael follows them, trying to convince them to stay and fight to regain control. But they cannot leave the building because they cannot open the gates from the inside. The prisoners use a pipe and start beating the guards. Travis warns that Michael was his. When Michael tries to use the knife, he disarms him with his hand, and, after pushing Nix out of his way, he starts beating Michael too. The fight ends abruptly when the red lights finally flash and the gates swing open, letting everyone out. Hours later, the bus comes to pick them up, and they all head home with a fat check in hand, wearing the same clothes they arrived in, as if nothing had happened. Nix asks Travis if he still thinks humans are at the highest level of the evolutionary chain, to which he replies, yes, because humans are capable of doing something about it. Many days later, the experiment appears on the news. Dr. Archer Lita is being tried for involuntary manslaughter in Benj's death, and most of the prisoners agree to testify against him. Travis travels to India and meets her. She notices that the knuckles on his fingers are no longer soft. Thus ends the experiment, a 2010 suspense and drama film.